Christmas bonus time, right?
December rolls around and I think Don's going to be good to me.
Neil, it's the same thing with the unions.
That's right.
They get their little 5%, they get another 2%, they get another 3%, 4%. Then all of a sudden they're making more money than the people that own the company.
The strike expansion, which was, again, to 2 more facilities at 2 of the big 3 automakers, brought the total striking UAW members to 25,000. Comes on the heels of a pretty unprecedented week for labor, all brought to you by the UAW's militancy against corporate greed and their pushing, rather than capitulation, to the Democrats. Just a reminder, before last week, never in American history had a sitting president of the United States been on a picket line. Never before. And, look, if you want to, get too clever by half and say that this is not a big deal and say that we should not celebrate that, that's fine. You're welcome to your own opinion. But I do disagree with it. I respectfully disagree with it. I think it is a big deal. Is it the same as UAW members getting a good contract, which is ultimately the material thing that really matters? No, it's not. But it's important, and it's good, and it is helpful to the UAW in their fight against the big 3 automakers, because it shows the big 3 automakers that that Biden cannot, at least publicly, go against what the UAW is doing. And so they're not going to be able to rely on that help from the state that they might otherwise be able to rely on. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing, I think, in my opinion. Similarly, I know that at one time, Republicans, they cared about labor, back during the Civil War, when Republicans were, the home of socialists and progressives and radicals. I know that not a lot of Republicans will know that today, but in the, during the early 1900s, the city of New York had a socialist Republican mayor. So, that's kind of a pretty different party back then than it is today. But I don't know that we've ever seen one so pathetically and clearly desperate for an endorsement from a union. And I pulled a clip from Trump's speech in Michigan where he, and I lost it. And I'm going to include it in the clip when it comes out. When we push this clip, when we push this segment out as its own clip, we're going to include the clip from Trump's speech, because it's so funny. Because 6 different times during the speech, he says, "The UAW should endorse me. Shawn Fain, he's a good guy. He's a good guy, but he needs to endorse Trump. Donald J. Trump."
In other words, your current negotiations don't mean as much as you think. I watch you out there with the pickets, but I don't think you're picketing for the right thing. But if they endorse me, your leadership, you can tell them I said it, although I have a feeling they may be watching tonight. Hopefully your leaders at United Auto Workers will endorse Donald Trump. Because, standard history for years and decades and years, they always endorse a Democrat. Your head man, Shawn, I've been watching him on television. He's a good man. I think he's a good man, but he's got to endorse Trump. The one thing I say, do me a favor, just get your union guys, your leaders, to endorse me. So tell your UAW leadership, no problems with them, but they have to endorse Trump, because if they don't, all they're doing is committing suicide. If you could speak to Shawn, he's listening right now, I'm sure. Shawn, endorse Trump, and you can take a nice 2-month vacation, come back. You guys are going to be better than you ever were. So if you want to save your livelihoods and your way of life, then you need to send a message and join the ultimate strike against the globalist class by casting your vote for a gentleman known as Donald J. Trump.
It's wow, I've never heard anybody that desperate for an endorsement before. It's pretty funny. And it's made even more pathetic because only a couple weeks ago, he was attacking Shawn Fain and advocating for the complete destruction of the United Auto Workers Union. Listen to this clip.
What's happening to our auto workers is an absolute disgrace and an outrage beyond belief. Auto workers are getting totally ripped off by crooked Joe Biden and also their horrendous leadership. But Joe Biden's cruel and foolish electric vehicle mandate, that's how bad this policy is. Your union heads know it, but the union bosses don't want to do anything about it because they're not leaders.
He was singing a very different tune about Shawn Fain last week when he was begging for his endorsement. Here's another one, some more of Donald Trump's takes on the UAW.
And your bosses are leading you right down the tubes. You shouldn't pay your fees. They get these big fees from all of their workers.
Yeah, so there you go. Donald Trump advocating that union members not pay their bosses' fees. And when he says bosses, he means union bosses, which we know here is a right-wing propaganda term meant to equivocate between the elected leadership of unions to the dictatorial, illegitimate authority of bosses at employers. Because they know, like instinctually, that people kind of resent that authority, right? And with good reason. And so if UAW members stop paying their dues, that would mean the complete destruction of the union. And so, yeah, that was what Trump was saying a couple of weeks ago. But last week, he was really begging for their endorsement. So, you know, really a shady and slimy guy, this guy. But you know, he pretended, he kind of made some noises about supporting the strike. But what he was really doing was supporting a strike that doesn't exist. Because what he did was he made some noises about supporting their fight for better wages and working conditions, but he said that they're not really fighting for the right thing. The workers don't know what they need to fight about. Donald Trump knows what they need to fight about, and what they need to fight about is Joe Biden, and they need to strike by voting against Joe Biden in the next election. And you know, it's not exactly a great analysis about what a strike is, but it was all around, you know, why the UAW should support him. It was not about the UAW fight on its own merits, which is what the UAW wants, which is what workers want. We don't want you to only come support us for your own political agenda. We just don't do that. We don't want you to do that. If you're going to support us, then support us, and we're going to welcome it. And regardless of what party you're from or really who you are, and I have, and so many workers have bona fides on of that kind of thing. Unions have the bona fides about we'll support. We're happy to accept support wherever it comes from. And specifically, you know, I've been talking about this lately in relation to this. Back in 2020. The TVA was trying to outsource about 80 jobs, including about 20 to 40 here in Huntsville. And the union was attacking the TVA and actually got Trump to stop it. And over the course of this, the union had Jeff Sessions speak at a rally against the outsourcing of these TVA IT jobs. Happy to have that. Happy to have Jeff Sessions speaking in support of the workers. Happy to have Donald Trump actually do the thing to stop the TVA from making that happen. But we're not super interested in you trying to sell us on voting for you. Also, he made these comments from a non-union auto parts manufacturer at the request of the boss, who was connected to Trump by the National Right to Work Foundation. They handed out signs to the crowd that said union members for Trump, which is that's a thing that I acknowledge exists, right? And yet, multiple people who are holding these signs said, no, I'm not a union member. I was just given this sign. You know what I mean? It's amazing. And despite all of this to say that this was clearly not a union rally, this was clearly not a UAW rally, this was not a rally to support UAW workers, This was a scab rally at a non-union plant put together by sworn enemies of the working class. And yet the mainstream media, which I'm always told has a left-wing bias, who hates Trump, wants to do everything they can to keep him out of power. The mainstream media gave Trump a whole week of headlines. Trump to visit the picket line. Trump to visit striking workers. Trump. All of these things. It's all a lie. It was not true. And we knew that it wasn't true going up to it. And yet they gave him just a whole week of these headlines. Really, really crazy stuff.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
But we also know, on top of, even if you just take the comments at this rally on their own and on their own merits, we can see that the support for working people was really superficial and only about him, which is how he supports anything, ever. It's all superficial and it's all about him. And we can see that also from a couple weeks ago. We can add some context to it where he was attacking the UAW. But also, we can go further back to 2008, where Donald Trump was saying that the UAW was responsible for what happened to the auto industry. Listen to this.
So you don't think he's conceded enough?
I think that the unions are really, really hurting very badly what's going on with the autos.
And his bad opinion of the UAW is not just an isolated opinion. Here's his view about workers generally getting raises. Listen to this.
And I see it in my own company. While my company is a lot newer, over the years, we have Christmas bonus time, right? And we've done well. Now, I pay somebody a bonus 20 years ago. Then you give them a little more, a little more, a little more. Now it's 20 years later. All of a sudden I'm saying, I'm paying them too much. I'm paying them too much. I'm paying some guys much more than I should be paying. You know why? Time. Same thing with the unions. They get a little increase, they get another.
What do your guys
40,
do? You
50
give them
years
a condo, or what do you give them?
No, I just give them bonuses. But I always like to give them a little bit more.
But I know it's not a hickory cheese log.
No,
I know that.
I'm not even talking about top level people. I'm talking about you go a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. All of a sudden 20 years is up, and now you're saying, man, that's a lot of money. I'm sitting behind my desk signing these checks.
It, right?
They expect
December rolls around and I think Don's going to be good to me.
Neil, it's the same thing with the unions.
That's right.
They get their little 5%. They get another 2%. They get another 3%, 4%. Then all of a sudden they're making more money than the people that own the company.
What a ghoul, right? And of course we know this is not true from our experience as workers. When we get 2%, 4%, 5% raises, we never end up making more than the owner of the company. But also the, even more perverse thing about that is that it's actually exactly the opposite. Inflation is a way for employers to mask pay cuts. Because as inflation increases, if our raises do not at least match inflation, what we're seeing is an actual decrease in our purchasing power. But Trump thinks that we should just accept pay cuts. And so, the UAW president, Shawn Fain, was asked to respond to this, to, what Trump was saying about, he was asked to respond to Trump's overtures towards the UAW. His really kind of groveling at the feet of Shawn Fain, which I could get used to, right? I could get used to presidential candidates groveling before union presidents. That would be awesome. So, Shawn Fain was asked about that, and this is how he responded.
Is the former president right? Does the push for electric vehicles here in the United States hurt your union?
It doesn't if it's a just transition, and that's what we're fighting for right now. It doesn't if the companies do the right thing and put this work under, our agreements or to our standards. And again, it's the companies driving this race to the bottom, and they're using our tax dollars to finance it. And, I find a pathetic irony that the former president is going to hold a rally for union members at a non-union business. And, all you have to do is look at his track record. His track record speaks for itself. In 2008, during the Great Recession, he blamed UAW members. He blamed our contracts for everything that was wrong with these companies. That's a complete lie. In 2015, when he was running for president, he talked about doing a rotation taking all these good paying jobs in the Midwest and moving them somewhere in the South where people work for less money, and then to make people beg for their jobs back at lower wages. And the ultimate show of his, how much he cares about our workers, was in 2019 when he was the president of the United States. Where was he then? Our workers at GM were on strike for 60 days, for 2 months. They were out there on the picket lines. I didn't see him hold a rally. I didn't see him stand up at the picket line, and I sure as hell didn't hear him comment about it.
So here's the question.
He was missing in action.
Here's the question to President. What about the meeting with Trump? Would you meet with him when he's in Detroit tomorrow?
I see no point in meeting with him because I don't think the man has any bit of care about what our workers stand for, what the working class stands for. He serves a billionaire class, and that's what's wrong with this country.
Well,
there you go. Perfect response from Shawn Fain. Over on the other side of the aisle, Joe Biden was able to meet the president. Actually, he visited the picket line, was able to meet the president of the United Auto Workers. I'm really happy that Joe Biden was able to do that. So probably a high point for him in his career. Unironically, that should be the case, but we know that people don't value union leaders that much. But Joe Biden visited the picket line. He supported the strike that actually exists, not one that he made up in his mind. He did not turn it into a rally for himself. He kept the focus on the workers. And whatever else you want to say about him, whatever else things that would be true and that we're going to talk about later with Chris Townsend, that's a fact, right? That's what Joe Biden did at that rally, at the picket line. And at this visit, Shawn Fain gave an amazing speech that was carried across cable news in full, where he also did not endorse Biden. He barely even talked about Biden. He talked about the strike and about the broader war on the working class and how the working class is now finally fighting back. And here is just a sample of his speech that not only was carried across several cable news channels, it was reproduced in full on the White House website. This is amazing that this kind of stuff is now on whitehouse.gov. I mean, that's just awesome. Listen to this.
You know, this site, Willow Run, it holds a historic place in the history of our union and our country. You know, this was part of the arsenal of democracy during World War II. It's where they built the B-24 Liberator bomber. You know, that bomber, they built one of those per hour when they were at their peak. It's what helped us win the war. So today, 80 years later, we find ourselves here again with the arsenal of democracy. It's a different kind of arsenal of democracy, and it's a different kind of war we're fighting. Today, the enemy isn't some foreign country miles away. It's right here in our own area. It's corporate greed. And the weapon we produce to fight that enemy, it's the liberators, the true liberators. It's the working class people, all of you working your butts off on those lines to deliver great product for our companies.
That's right.
That's how we're going to defeat these people. That's how we're going to defeat corporate greed, is by standing together.
There you go. Reproduced in full on the White House website. Pretty cool, pretty cool.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.